a few minutes for some others to come join us. So what we'll do in the meantime is I'll just play you a song or two, so I can show off this wonderful, wonderful ukulele that was made by Mike Keller. Aloha. One more short one, important one. Here goes. Aloha, everybody. I'm Kimo Hussey, and it is my pleasure to be able to share some ukulele with you. I am quite new to sharing ukulele in the venue that we do right now, but nevertheless, it's something that I'm very, very happy to do because, as you know, when it comes to ukulele, there is only good news. And boy, have I got some great, great news for you today. So let's get going. I'm going to do something at the beginning that's quite different, and that is to tell you that you do not need to have your ukulele with you in the session that we're going to do today. And so if you have your ukulele, it would be best if you just set it down. And the reason for that is that I'm going to extract something from the learning process of ukulele. And the reason why I want you to put your ukuleles down is so that we can focus our total attention on what it is we're going to talk about today. And the way we focus on that thing all by itself is to put our ukuleles down and just concentrate on hearing. The reason why I'd like to put your ukuleles down and just concentrate on hearing is that we hear we hear what's very, very important, absent all of the noise that sometimes we just kind of take for granted. And by noise, I don't mean just ambient noise. Sometimes we think we're hearing something is because we're thinking of something else. So you know what? Do me a favor. Just put your ukuleles down. I chose an ukulele to play today that's tuned differently. So even if I hold a chord like this, for example, even though you might think of it as C, it really isn't in terms of sound. So ukuleles down. You know what? The primary reason why people around the world enjoy ukulele is because it's fun. I know this because I myself have chased ukulele around the world, and every time I get caught up to ukulele and wonderful people like you, they all say the same thing. We all say the same thing. The reason why we enjoy playing the ukulele is that it's fun. So let's figure out how we can best have fun today. And the reason for that is the degree to which we can calm down, and just not have take anything that we think we know about ukulele and just suspend it for a while so we can concentrate on hearing. I have some wonderful, wonderful news for you. One other thing I would like to tell you is that proficiency and how well we each individually play the ukulele has nothing to do with us having fun. There are certain things we need to do in order to have fun with ukulele, and I want to tell you again that it has nothing to do with proficiency. Let me play you a part of a song that, at least in my estimation, takes a little bit of proficiency to learn to play. Here it comes. Let me play you another song that maybe doesn't require as much proficiency. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. Each of those songs requires a different amount of proficiency, but one is not necessarily more fun to the player than the other. And that's very, very important. The reason why we mention that is that it's important for us to relax during the time that we spend together. The degree to which we relax as we continue on in our ukulele journey for today is the degree to which our minds and our hearts open. The degree to which we open ourselves to what it is we're trying to learn is the degree to which it gets embedded much stronger. Okay, one more idea and then we'll keep going. There's a huge, huge difference between a concept, an idea, which we can understand just that fast. Just that fast. And there's a huge difference between that and gaining proficiency in what it is we're talking about, gaining proficiency in the concept that we're talking about. There is no time, people, for us to gain proficiency in anything that we're going to talk about today, because there just isn't time. But our brains can understand a concept just that fast. What we always need to remember is just because we can understand an idea very quickly does not mean that our hands will be able to be as fast in understanding what they need do and what we need practice in order to affect the idea, the concept we're talking about. Okay, now that your ukuleles are down and we're nice and relaxed and comfortable, let's talk about hearing. Today, we're going to talk totally about hearing. The first thing I want to do is play a chord for you and just have you listen to it. Just listen to it. I know you can see my fingers, but the name of the chord and the position of my fingers are irrelevant. All I want you to do is just listen to this chord. As I play this chord, it sounds to me like this chord wants to go someplace else. It's not necessarily happy all by itself. Can you hear that? It wants to go somewhere. Now when I play this chord, listen very carefully. I'm going to play this chord from here to here. And when I do that, it sounds like this. When I go here, has achieved resolution. One of the wonderful things about concentrating on hearing is that there are certain things about how we hear that we don't necessarily have to train our ears to do. When I play this chord, our ears tell us, without any training at all, our ears go, hey, this needs resolution. And so one of the things we do is, in addition to hearing that this chord needs resolution, one of the things we can do is to understand where we need to go in order to resolve it. For example, from here, if I go from here to here, is that the resolution? Well, no. If I go from here to here, yes, that's resolution. Isn't it a wonderful, wonderful thing for us to consider how we musically resolve things? It's wonderful. People, on a daily basis, every hour of every day, we're constantly searching for resolution. Isn't it wonderful for us to examine ways in which we can achieve musical resolution? Because through music and through ukulele, if we go from here to here, what happens is we do this. And we feel better. And people remember, our ears not only tell us that there's something that needs resolution, our ears can also point us in the direction to resolve that. Is that applicable to ukulele? Absolutely. It's a matter of goal setting. And the degree to which we can achieve and practice resolution is the degree to which we can have a lot more fun in what we do. And you know what? We can learn to do that. And even better news is, it's not difficult. I want to play a part of a song for you. I'm going to play just the ending for you. This song is Love Me Tender. And the reason why I want to do this and work into the ending is to show you how we can lead up to resolution. How we can lead into resolution. Knowing that our ears can tell us when we need resolution, and our ears can also tell us the direction we're going. So what I'm going to do is use Love Me Tender at the end of it, just to help us all be together in how we together as well go and achieve resolution. You know, Love Me Tender. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. So now I'm going to play the ending just instrumentally and lead us toward resolution. See, and there's some other things that we easily do, things like dynamics and tempo, and changing dynamics and tempo to add to that resolution, because this tells us we need resolution. And if I do go from here to here, it's getting closer to that resolution and teasing us more. But it's not until I go here that we achieve that resolution. And remember, this isn't difficult. This isn't difficult. All we need to do is take advantage of how our ears hear. That's why God gave us two of them, so we can hear very, very well. It's also important that we understand that we need to take out as much noise as we can in order to take that sense of hearing and apply it productively to our ukulele playing. Okay, so listen to this. It's another chord. This is also a seventh chord that wants resolution. You hear that? And that resolution from here is here. If I were to ask you a question and say, hey, here is what needs to be resolved. If I went from here to here, is that the resolution? Listen to it again. No, it isn't, isn't it? But the important thing is, what is telling us that it's not the right resolution? It's hearing. And it's a reason why, people, we extract this sense of hearing from our ability to practice the ukulele so that we can better learn. So, is there such a thing as a rule of thumb that we can use to help us determine what the target chord is for resolution? And the answer is yes. I know if I think of this chord, it's a seventh chord, and I know in order to resolve this chord, I have to go here, and in order to resolve this chord, I have to go here. So what's a general rule of thumb? Pretty easy. You take the letter name of the seventh chord, take the letter name of the seventh chord, and make that number 1, and go to 4 letters above. So A seventh, we're going to take that A seventh, okay, and make that number 1. And so it's going to be A, B, C, D. So A seventh wants to resolve to D. B seventh wants to resolve to what? B is 1, C, D, E. So B seventh wants to resolve to E. And that is our simple rule of thumb. Let's move on because resolution, remember, is so important. And in any song that we play, there's not only just one resolution, there's several, always several in the songs. And generally, each phrase of a song has its own resolution. Before we go on and explain and explore, I should say, more about hearing, let me also say that if what I've been talking about so far seems a little bit foreign to you, not to worry about it, because this is something that we can practice and practice productively. And I can tell you certain, with just a little bit of practice, this can almost become second nature. It's a matter of quantifying things that we know. For example, if we're playing in the key of C, we know that generally after any G7, we're probably going to go back to C. Well, G, A, B, C. And that's the reason. We can still use that rule of thumb. So you know what? If this seems a little bit fuzzy, or if anything we talk about today seems a little bit fuzzy, not to worry about it, because that's what practice is about, and I've got some good news for practice as well. You don't need to be practicing 1 hour every day. If you want to do that, that's fine. But if you don't, that's fine too, because remember, the whole objective of us playing ukulele is to have fun. Okay, let's talk some more about hearing and sound. Okay, because hearing is about sound. In terms of sound and playing the ukulele, sound and the development of sound rests totally in right-hand technique, not left-hand technique, and not a combination of left-hand and right-hand technique. Sound and the production of sound is totally in the right hand. Therefore, you know what? We ought to spend some time in our practicing, not only going over chords and how to hold those. We ought to spend some time with that right hand so that we can develop different kinds of sounds. We would never think of learning just one song in our ukulele career and playing that over and over and over again. We like to have variety, so we learn different songs. Well, the same thing applies to right-hand technique. If our right-hand technique is just strumming like this, there's nothing wrong with that. But if we get to the point where we'd like to exercise some different kind of technique to provide different sounds, then what we have to do is pay attention to right-hand technique. And this right-hand technique in producing sound is so extremely important that I would like to try and portray for you the difference between left-hand technique and right-hand technique as it applies to sound. I forgot to mention earlier, by the way, that if you have some questions, we'll get to some of those as best we can at the end. Because it's really tough for me to play the ukulele and talk to you and leave one eye looking at the screen and the other trying to figure out what it is you guys are asking. But I promise at the end that we'll get to your questions. Okay, back to right-hand technique. I'm going to play you a song. I'm not going to tell you what song it is, but what I'm going to do is leave out my right hand and just use my left-hand technique. Okay? And here comes the song, just using left-hand technique. 1, 2, ready, go. Not a whole lot of sound, isn't it? Okay, so now let me take out the left hand and use just the right hand. Same song, just right hand and sound. Here we go. Mm, 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 mm. Kind if I take what I did with my left hand and take what I did with my right hand and combine both. You see, all the left hand does is to maneuver and practice fretboard geography in order to make the sounds fit well. But there is no sound that comes out of that left hand. Okay, so I'm going to combine what I did with my left hand and put that along with my right hand in order to play the song. And here it comes. And that's why it's so important, people. It's so important for us to pay attention to right-hand technique. The degree to which we are accountable and practice accountably both left hand and right hand technique is the degree to which our music will come out better. And remember, we're talking about hearing, we're talking about listening. And remember and do know always that sound always comes from the right hand. Okay, let's portray this a little bit more. I want to tell you that there's absolutely nothing about ukulele and learning to play whatever song you want to learn to play. Absolutely nothing that is difficult if we do nothing more than reduce what we're trying to learn to the lowest common denominators. And so what I'd like to do is to do that for you. And the first thing I want to start with is a song that I want to play. I'm going to use Jambalaya. Bum, 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 you've got to go on the road down by, and that's a song we're going to use. It's a very simple song, so there's only 2 chords in it. But I want to use this song again to show you how to break things down to the lowest common denominator relevant to the right hand and what that right hand needs to do. The first thing it needs to do is pay attention to the melody. So here comes the melody. Bum, 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 bum. What do you have to do with in order to learn that melody? Just take it apart from the song. Don't try and combine it with anything at the beginning. Just learn how to play the melody. Now, the reason why I say what we need to do is to break things down to the lowest common denominator is when we do that, things are very simple. Watch my left hand and what it needs to do in order to play the melody. It's very simple. Yes. Okay. The next thing we do is we take that melody and we combine it with harmony, the chords that the composer intended to be in the song. Okay, so let's go here. Now we're going to add harmony, and the first order of harmony is the chord C. So listen to this. I'm going to add the harmony. And all I'm going to do to keep this simple is just use my thumb and stroke down. That's all. That's all we need to do. You see, the idea is to keep things simple. There's no future in making things more complicated than they need to be. Listen to this. So now I'm going to put the harmony to it. And then what I have is this. I'm going to start at C. G7. Hear that? Hear that? Watch my thumb. If you can see my thumb, it's going to go down only. I hope you can see that. G7. See? And you know what? So far, we've talked about melody and harmony. Okay? If we combine the melody and the harmony in a way that the composer intended, we have the rhythmic integrity of the song. So the rhythmic integrity of the song is bam, 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 bam. That's what I'm going to have my thumb do on its way down, is stick with that rhythmic integrity. And here's what I have. That's it. Can you hear that? Well, people, very simply, what we've done is we've combined melody and harmony together on the ukulele. You know what? Got some more great news. Got some more great news. Combining melody and harmony on the ukulele is as difficult as it is ever going to get. Combining melody and harmony on the ukulele is as difficult as it's ever going to get. And if we can learn how to do that this simply, oh boy, we're off to a roaring start, aren't we? What does that mean? It means that when it comes to the melody, if we're learning a song, we have some choices to make. We can have a singer sing the melody, and in that situation, we got it made. All we got to do is play the chords. Even I can do that. Or we can have another instrument play the melody, or whatever else, play the melody. The most difficult thing we'll do in terms of combining melody and harmony is to combine both on the ukulele. Listen to it again. It's pretty easy. Okay. So far, we've talked about melody and then combining harmony with it. And then when we combine the melody and harmony the way the composer intended, we have the rhythmic integrity of the song. So we've talked about melody, harmony, and rhythm. Once we get those three things put together, and those are easy. You know why else it's so easy for us to consider that? It's because once we do that, we can put most of the song together. And all that's left for us to consider is how fast we want to play the song, or how soft or how loud we want to play the song. So listen to this. Or I can change technique. And rather than a thumb down technique, I can use a forefinger plucking up to get the melody while the thumb down continues to get the harmony. And I can get this. I can take the rhythm, change the rhythm just a little bit, and add some seasoning to what the composer intended and do something like this. Okay, as I played that, how many of you were trying to look at my left hand, trying to figure out what it is I was doing? And that's not bad. It's a habit. But I want to tell you that it's a habit that can get in the way. Remember when we first started, we said, hey, what we want to do is concentrate on hearing. And we want to take this hearing and pull it out of our normal way of learning to play the ukulele so we can concentrate just on hearing. Why? Because our ears tell us a lot. Our ears tell us a lot. And the whole idea behind what we're doing now is for our ears to set up the goal of what it is we want to learn. I want to tell you about a deep, dark Kimo Hussey secret. I want to tell you about a deep, dark Kimo Hussey not so secret. What I'm talking to you about now is how I learned to play the ukulele. And very simply, it's this. I ask my ears to hear what the final product is. I want to say that again. I ask my ears to tell me what the final product is. Once I know what that final product is, because of practice, I work backwards from there. Work backwards from there by considering the things that we talked about. What are they? Melody, harmony, rhythm, tempo, which is speed in music, and dynamics, which is volume, loud or soft. And you see again, by narrowing it down to the lowest common denominator makes everything that we do simpler. And the degree to which we make every individual thing that we need consider simpler is the degree to which it's easier for us to combine it. I want to give you another example. And in this melody, I'm going to play just a simple scale. And I want to tell you that this scale is our assumed melody. And here we go. Just listen to it. Just listen to it. Don't be trying to figure out how to play it. It's just a simple scale. Why do I do that? Because in the course of understanding melodies, all we need do is know that any melody we play is nothing more than notes of the scale. More often than not, those notes of the scale are taken out of sequence. You know, we don't always play this song. It conveniently comes right down the scale, but not all songs do that. Anyway, back to our melody. What I'm going to do now is very simply add some harmony to that. And I get this. Notice how the melody is very, very clear and audible as I combine the harmony and the melody together. And the reason for that, by the way, is my thumb, when it goes down, does not strum farther than the melody. Melody, 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 melody. Don't go beyond that. See that? If I were to strum all four strings and come down that scale, you couldn't hear the scale. Listen to this. See that? Now what I'm going to do now is strum down not farther than the melody. And I get this. Now, I want to tell you something else. There is nothing about ukulele that is difficult if we do nothing more than reduce things to the lowest common denominator. Reduce things to the lowest common denominator. And if we do this, people, we don't have to practice long and hard. What we need to do in our practice is make it fun and consistent. Consistency in practicing is the key. Whether we try and practice every day, every other day, every third day, whatever. Just try and make it as consistent as possible. And remember, we don't have to practice hours at a time. Okay, I want to take this, and the reason why I showed you this scale is that we can use that scale to help us learn some other songs. Listen to this. Already played this. Or if I apply a different rhythm and I apply some dynamics, loud and soft, along with tempo, speed, I can take this just take a part of it and play this. Hear that? Hear that? Slavian rose. Slavian rose. People, what are we talking about? We're talking about taking practice, taking the system that we choose to adapt for ourselves to learn to play the ukulele and understand what it is about playing the ukulele and what it is about the natural abilities that God gave us in order to understand and know that making wonderful music is not difficult. It is not meant to be difficult. And in the course of understanding that, we have more fun. The degree to which we have more fun playing the ukulele is the degree to which we stick with it more. The degree to which we have more fun playing the ukulele is the degree to which we stick with it more. Remember when I played two songs at the beginning? I played this, and then after that I played You Are My Sunshine, and I said, hey, there are different levels of proficiency that a person need acquire in order to play each of these songs. But that difference in proficiency does not determine how much fun a person has. You know, people, one of the most wonderful things about the session that we're doing right now is that it's being sponsored and put on by the Ukulele Kids Club. I want to say this again. It's being sponsored and put on by the Ukulele Kids Club. And you know what that Ukulele Kids Club does? It procures ukulele and gives these ukuleles to certified music therapists who operate wonderful, wonderful music therapy programs in hospitals and share these ukulele with kids. And I want to tell you, because despite the fact that I personally am not a music therapist, nevertheless, I have a very, very abiding and enduring interest and appreciation for the science of music therapy. And I have been in numerous situations where even before a person, even a person who is sick or trying to recover from an ailment, that before they even know it, all they do is go. And you see, they just light up like a neon sign. It is so wonderful. Speaking of wonderful, how great it is that there's an organization like the Ukulele Kids Club that goes out and solicits support from you, from us, in order to provide these ukuleles in a setting where we help make kids have fun. Please, please, please remember the Ukulele Kids Club. Again, the Ukulele Kids Club provides ukuleles to music therapists in hospitals who subsequently share these instruments in a wonderful setting with the kids. And what this does is to provide kids a wonderful activity that can easily last the rest of their lives. Okay, so we last left with this, by virtue of review. melody, harmony, rhythm. I can change that rhythm around. Or extract a smaller part of that scale and play something like this. Let me go on a little bit. What do you think? Is there something I just did? Or if there's or is there something that I did not do that violates what we've already talked about? Yes. Listen to this again. And I stop there without going to the resolution. Hear that? Hear that? So, people, everything that we talked about today is connected. Everything that we talked about today is connected. One of the things we mentioned at the beginning had to do with various levels of proficiency, not having anything to do with how much fun we have. And the reason why we mentioned that, again, is so that we can open our minds and hearts to what is right, what is easy, and what is essentially even therapeutic about music and ukulele, and understand that the huge rewards are easily attainable if we do nothing more than break things down to the lowest common denominator. I want to go back now to something that we mentioned about left hand technique, and that is all this left hand does, all it has to do is to just figure out where to put our fingers on the fretboard in order to make the sounds that the right hand is going to employ correct. That's all the left hand has to do. Let me ask you kind of a question, and that is, if the left hand has just that one thing to do, how many things does the right hand have to do? And the answer is, okay, and the answer is, one of the advantages you have is I cannot hear you, and the answer is 5. There are 5 things that the right hand directly does to affect sound on the ukulele. What are those 5 things? Because we went over them. The first is melody. In the course of learning to play a song, then we should start with melody. Figure out not only how to play that, if you're going to play that on the ukulele as well, or figure out where you're going to get that melody from. Remember, it can be from a singer, another instrument, or it can be combined with the harmony on your own ukulele. The second thing we considered was harmony. Second thing we considered was harmony. The third thing we talked about was rhythm. And we said that, hey, melody and harmony, if combined the way the composer intended, which means if we're trying to learn a song, we got to hear that song. How do we do that? Pretty easy. All we got to do is download it and listen to it. Oh, there's that word again, listen. It has to do with hearing. Remember, because our ears, the sense that we have, this wonderful sense of hearing, will establish goals for us. And once we hear what the goal is, if we take that and work backwards and translate working backwards to what we got to put together. And remember, reduce it to the lowest common denominator is the degree to which we make our learning and our playing A, fun, and B, very easy and very rewarding. Okay, I want to play a song for you now. And the reason why I want to play this song for you is by virtue of a review of the things that we talked about today. And actually, it's a review of the thing we talked about today, which is basically hearing. And in the course of hearing, we said, you know what? The ear is a powerful thing. And one of the wonderful things about our ears is it already knows a lot about what we can apply to our own ukulele playing in order to make us happy, happy, happy. And teachers, this thing is very, very simple, especially in sharing this with kids, because kids are fearless, which is a wonderful thing. They haven't developed any bad habits yet, and they don't even know what a bad habit is with regard to playing the ukulele. And they're not like some of us adults, because sometimes we think, oh, just because something is new, it's difficult. No, it's not in ukulele. Remember, nothing in ukulele is difficult if we do nothing more than reduce things to the lowest common denominator. With regard to right hand technique, what are those lowest common denominators? Melody, harmony, rhythm, tempo, and dynamics. Once again, and before I tell you this, isn't it just wonderful, wonderful foresight that God gave us 5 of these, because he knew when he made us that at some point in the future, ukulele was going to be very, very important to us. And all we have to do is use this to help us remember melody, harmony, rhythm, tempo, dynamics. People, the degree to which we employ all 5 things together in the music that we do is the degree to which our music becomes emotional. The degree to which we involve all 5 things when we make our music is the degree to which the music becomes emotional. I want to play a song for you. To bring all of this together, and then we'll get your questions answered. Let's get to some of your questions. Which one? What tuning is Kimo using? Good question. And the tuning that I'm using, by the way, is a B flat 6 tuning, which means that it's one full step below G, C, E, A. Here's the reason for that. In terms of the design and the dimensions of this ukulele, it is right between a tenor and a baritone ukulele. And so if you take, and it also has an extended scale, by the way, of about 1.5 inches to 2 inches longer than a tenor ukulele. If you take any ukulele and just extend the scale, extend the neck just a little bit, and tune the ukulele to the same pitch, you will find that the strings will be very tight. And so when we're working on the design of this ukulele, and by the way, the reason for this design was just to figure out how to create a sound that was between a tenor and a baritone uke. Anyway, what we also discovered that because of the extended scale, rather than make those strings work real hard and make them very unhappy and very tight, what we did was just loosen them one full step. So instead of G, C, E, A, this ukulele is tuned F, B flat, D, G. And by the way, here comes G, C, E, A. G, C, E, A. And this is tuned F, B flat, D, G. It's a sound that I really, really love because I love low and mellow as opposed to high and bright. And it's not a matter of good or bad. It's a matter of sound preference. Okay, what's next? Let's see. Do you have any method books you can recommend? Leave this here so I can see that. I'll tell you what, you hang on to that. Books. You know what? I got to tell you, I'm pretty lazy. And because of that, I haven't written any books. And I haven't read any books. I'm pretty much self-taught in ukulele. But I must say that I do have a degree in music. My degree is in choral conducting because I dearly love choirs and church music. But ever since I was this high, as a matter of fact, my mom said I was 5 years old when I first started to play the ukulele. And what I always loved about the ukulele is that it was fun, which means there are lots of times when I wasn't making music with it. And there were also times when I was abusing it. But as I grew up, especially when I got to maybe junior high school and high school, I started to take a really serious interest in ukulele. And after I graduated, because for me the ukulele was always about having fun, and especially when I was young, it was more so a toy than an instrument. But once I graduated with a degree in music, it became very simple for me to take those, I will call them somewhat academic aspects of music and apply them to ukulele. And when I did that, playing and teaching people to play ukulele became a lot more meaningful to me. I love to teach, but I got to tell you, I'm not an academic teacher. I can talk for a long time about music therapy, not music therapy, but music theory, I should say, and how that applies to ukulele. And you know what? That would be a very, very productive discussion. But I'm just not into books, whether it be writing books or reading music, for example, because what I like to do with the ukulele is just have fun as I choose to have fun. What else we got here, buddy? Do you recommend using a metronome for kids? Okay. I would say that that is a matter of judgment to the teacher, the parent, the friend, whoever it is who is helping guide the child in their understanding and playing with ukulele. There are some wonderful, wonderful benefits that can be accrued from using a metronome. But I think applied too early may also might end up maybe taking some of the fun out of learning to play ukulele. The advantage of metronomes is giving music continuity through constant rhythm and things like constant tempo. And if we choose to change tempos, make that a good reason for doing it. But a lot of times, in the course of learning to play, what we do is we learn almost totally through eyesight. What that means is somebody gives us a piece of paper, we download a song from the internet, and we look at that. Remember, it's on the piece of paper, and it has all these chords on it. And so we follow the chords dutifully, and when we get to the lyric that says change chords, we change the chord. And so when we do that, we go, okay, now we know how to play the song. But do you notice how often when you do that, and you do that too soon, which is often, that you have to stop a lot. You have to stop a lot and go, oh, okay, how do you play that song? Or how do you go from this chord to this chord? Or I got a review from this chord. And you know what? What a metronome does is to help create more discipline in maintaining tempo and a certain kind of rhythm that we choose to use. I saw another question that had to do with who made this ukulele. Who made your ukulele? He's watching. Oh, okay. I believe that the three things that determine the quality of your music are left-hand technique, right-hand technique, and the instrument that you play. It's obvious that the degree to which you play a more quality instrument is the degree to which your music comes out better. Why? Because quality instruments are made better. What does that mean? Action, which is, hey, do I have to fight the instrument in order to play chords? Is very good. Sound is wonderful. Notice that this instrument doesn't buzz and the chords are real nice and clear. And as I go up here on the fretboard, I can get a lot of wonderful clarity. These are just examples of quality that's put into instruments. Got some more great news. There is no one instrument builder that can make the instrument that has everything on it that we would like. You know what's wonderful about that? We always need at least one more instrument than we have. And I think that's wonderful because it justifies having more than one. And all you got to figure out how to justify that beyond yourself. But anyway, this ukulele was made by Mike Keller, is his name. Mike lives in Rochester, Minnesota. And obviously is a wonderful, wonderful instrument maker. He has built his reputation on building guitars. And this is one of the first instruments that he made. And this instrument is very, very special to me personally, because I met Mike through another mutual friend whose name is Dan Ryerson. Dan Ryerson, who now also lives in Minnesota, and Mike Keller are good friends. In fact, it was Dan who introduced me to Mike. Dan also is an instrument maker, and several years ago he gave Mike Keller a set of Milo wood. This is Milo wood from Hawaii. And when when I first contracted with Mike Keller to make me an ukulele, what he decided to do after years and years of having this wood was to use this Milo wood. And what I'll tell you what, listen to the sustain. Isn't that great? And if you're a person who likes low and mellow, as I do, Mike Keller. A couple more. Let's see. Grant Keeler wants to know your favorite wine. Because it's Grant Keeler, I would have to say, Grant, that my favorite wine is Camus. The reason why Grant and I are such good friends is I originally met Grant when I was on a trip to Houston, and as a result of that, in fact, that trip was when I met Grant, and on some trips that where he came to Hawaii and I went back to Houston, we just became very good friends. The very first time I met Grant here in Hawaii, his family was there, and they were down at Turtle Bay. And so when I went down to visit him, we drank some Camus. And when I left, he had this wonderful, wonderful bottle of Camus that I hung on to and never opened. And this wasn't on purpose. I just, it was so wonderful that I just saved it. And I think it was years, or a year at least, that I had it before there was opportunity for Grant to come back to Hawaii and enjoy that bottle of Camus with me. So, Grant, thanks for joining us, and without a doubt, it's a Camus. What are your ideas for lefty players? That's a good question. And I must admit that I have a very, very tough time dealing with left-handed players because left-handed players need to make a decision that I cannot make on their behalf. If I meet them for the first time, here's the decision that they got to make. I'm holding this ukulele right-handed. When I hold this ukulele as if I'm a left-handed player, what that player needs to decide is if you're going to change the orientation of the strings tuning-wise, so that you take this string and put it up here. See, because the low string for the right hand, if I move this over to the left hand, that low string is on the bottom. So what the left-handed player needs to do is to decide if he or she is going to restring the ukulele or play upside down and backwards. And it doesn't mean that left-handed players have a tougher time. They just know and figure out how to adapt playing to the left-hand side. And so when I come across a left-hand player, which unfortunately that hasn't been very often, the best I can do is to say, hey, you need to make a decision. Either change the string orientation or learn to play upside down and backwards. And I tell you what, I have heard some very, very wonderful left-hand players. So you know what? Keep going. Okay, we'll just take a couple more. Kapala, what are your plans for ukulele in 2020? Boy, is that a great loaded question. This guy Kapala, his first name is Zanuck. I want you to remember this name. His name is Zanuck Lindsay. Zanuck is one of those very, very few outstanding, incredibly wonderful musicians who teaches equally well. It's been my pleasure for several years to have opportunity to work with Zanuck, not only doing concerts together and playing together with him, but also to share teaching, because he and I love to teach and we love to play, and we both see eye to eye philosophically on how the instrument is to be played and how people are best taught. With regard to plans in 2020, what Zanuck and I have in mind is to take 2020 and focus on baritone ukuleles. A lot of times in the course of teaching people, what we do is, we take CF and G7 and figure out how to apply different songs to CF and G7 and keep those chords the same. And so, if we do the same thing over and over and over again, we run the risk of creating some boredom. So we thought, and a lot of it, by the way, is Zanuck and I see eye to eye on low, mellow sound. Low, mellow sound. Recently, and that is in February, Zanuck and I were at an event on Maui, where we played. I played a baritone ukulele, and Zanuck played a kiku, which is also kind of like a low-sounding ukulele with 2 bass strings. And the sound that we got was just kind of mesmerizing. So we thought, oh, you know what? We're early in the year, so let's take 2020 and let's just focus on baritone ukuleles. So we're in the process. Actually, we have created a curriculum for baritone ukulele. We have created a concert that features low and mellow instruments, mostly baritone ukes. And so that's going to be our feature for 2020. Most importantly, remember this name, Zanuck Lindsay. I'm hoping that the next time we do this, if there's a next time, that Zanuck and I can get together and figure out how to defeat this social distancing guideline that prevented us from teaching together this time. About 2 more. 1 more. No more. Okay. So anyway, we've come to the end. I want to tell you thank you so much for sharing your time, and I look forward to maybe another time when we can share ukulele. Remember the Ukulele Kids Club. Remember the Ukulele Kids Club. People, let's all figure out how we can test positive for ukulele. Let's all figure out how we can test positive for ukulele. You know what that means? $50, a donation of $50 will provide the Ukulele Kids Club opportunity to get a kid an ukulele. Let's get that one to spread like wildfire. See you next time. Aloha.